For those unaware, Doodle Tones recently did a full-length commentary on my commentary on Umbrus and Firebolt. And you know what? It's really good, and I'd recommend you all watch it. Link in the description. However, there was actually one point in my commentary that she missed, and it's been bothering me ever since. So that means I am going to one-shot my own video now. Enjoy.
What's crack-a-lackin' Toxic Crew, my name is Toxiquid, and Super Mario 64 has recently come into my life, and I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it! I may be spoiled rotten with quite frankly better 3D platformers with gems like A Hat in Time, Mario Odyssey, and hell, even Banjo-Kazooie, but my god, this game is terrible in my opinion.
So you're comparing the first ever 3D Collectathon to two games released within the past 5 years.
First off, Super Mario 64 was not the first 3D Collectathon. Well, depending on how you want to define 3D. I'll say this, if you want to count Super Mario 64 as a collectathon, you have to count games like Toe Jam and Earl from 1991, Zombies Ate My Neighbors from 1993, and Ghoul Patrol from 1994 as collectathons, all of which were at least to some extent 3D. I also feel the need to ask, what comparison was made between Super Mario 64 and A Hat in Time and Mario Odyssey in the clip you showed? All Toxiquid did was acknowledge that he played these games first, and that is going to influence how he perceives Super Mario 64. It's more a disclaimer about bias than anything else. For that matter, I reject the notion that comparing an old game to a newer game is inherently unreasonable. For example, if I make a statement like Braid did a better use of time travel than Blinx the Time Sweeper did, is that statement automatically invalid because there was such a long gap between the two games being released? I would say no, because both are still time travel games, and for that matter, Blinx could have done what Braid did. Now, if the comparison is invalid because, for example, the technology wasn't there, like if Toxiquid was requesting full motion cutscenes in a game that did not have the technology to do that, then I would understand. However, if all he's doing is using a new game to illustrate something that it would have been perfectly reasonable to expect an older game to do, then it is not invalid to inherently compare new and old products. So, a number of issues, and I just want to say, if I want to be harsh on people for their wording, implications, or framing in my commentaries, I cannot exclude myself from these harsh criticisms. So, in that spirit, I want to ask, what the fuck does depending on how you define 3D mean? Something either is 3D, as in it uses 3 dimensions, or it isn't. There aren't multiple definitions of 3D. However, notice how I don't even say what definition of 3D I am using, let alone explain why those games are 3D in the first place. And I don't even attempt to justify exactly how these games are collectathons at any point. Although, I guess that might depend on how you define say and justified. My point about comparisons, I think, has validity somewhere in there. However, it just doesn't apply to this situation. The issue wasn't that Toxiquid compared and contrast Mario 64 with A Hat in Time or Super Mario Odyssey. It was that he name-dropped these games at the beginning of his video as to why he does not like Super Mario 64. As I myself said, no real comparison has been made up until this point, except for the fact they are 3D collectathons. Lastly, I wish to note on the whole Blinx could have done what Braid did thing. Remember what I was using this comparison to justify. I was using it to justify Toxiquid comparing Mario 64 with A Hat in Time and Mario Odyssey. So was I saying that Mario 64 could have done what Mario Odyssey and A Hat in Time did? Well, in some respects, that certainly has to be true, considering all 3 games are 3D collectathons. However, remember how I said that Toxiquid hadn't compared anything specific about these games in that clip? Meanwhile, considering what these games did hasn't been established, the only way you could really accept this statement is in a vacuum. Meaning you could actually reasonably argue that I said that Mario Odyssey and a Hat in Time could have come out in 1996 on a Nintendo 64. And that wouldn't even be as far as a leap as some of the leaps I make in the video. Good night and good luck.